Guys, tonight we are going to be crocheting a Scraptastic beanie. For those of you who don't know what a Scraptastic beanie is, it's a Scraptastic beanie. It's a beanie that is made of scraps. This is a crochet with me tutorial, and I haven't started crocheting it yet. We're just going to work on it together. And what you'll need is a bunch of scraps of yarn, and then one yarn that is like maybe one of these. And what you'll be using is either 3-weight or 4-weight. Now, the one that stays solid all the way through, you'll be crocheting with 2 strands at a time, is going to be, it doesn't matter, 3-weight or 4-weight. But here's the important part. If this is one size, then the other strand has to be all of one size. So I don't care whether you use 3 or 4-weight scraps, but keep it consistent. Like the scraps need to either all be 3-weight or 4-weight. Let me introduce myself for those of you who've never been here before. My name is Ginger. I am the Yarn Geek, and welcome back to everybody who has been here before. For this hat, we're going to be using 2 strands. Now, one can be a 3-weight and a 3-weight. One can be a 3-weight and a 4-weight, or you can make it with a 4-weight and a 4-weight. Now, if you use 2 3-weights, you're going to use a J hook. If you use, which is a 6mm. If you use a 3-weight and a 4-weight, you'll use a K or a 6.5mm. And if you use 2 4-weights, you're going to use a 7mm. Yay! I got the millimeters, Deneen. So if anybody has any questions, just put what size yarns you're using and I will tell you. But it's really easy. If you're using 2 3-weight yarns, it'll be a 6mm. A 3 and a 4-weight yarn, it'll be a 6.5mm. And 2 4-weight yarns, it'll be a 7mm. Since I am using 2 4-weight yarns, I am going to be using a 7mm. I'm always going to go by the millimeter, and I recommend that you do too. It saves on confusion. I was thinking I was either going to use this for the solid or this for the solid. So I'm going to use, I think there will be, you know what? We're just going to go for it because I like this color better. And this is just, I recommend using acrylic yarn. That way you can just throw everything in the wash. So I'm going to be using my little Vanna's palettes. That's what, Vanna's palettes. Babies and mysterious rashes go hand in hand. Amen. Amen to that. So I'm just going to, these are my scraps. I'm just going to start right now. Little yarn nuggets. I know. Look at these. They're so cute. I'm hoping this will work out to be perfect, like 2 rows, because what we're going to be doing is using up our scraps of yarn. Now, I kind of, when I do a Scraptastic anything, I try to only make 2 rows with the same scrap color. Of course, the whole entire thing will be using this because I don't want to get too many clumped up colors. Okay, here we go. I've got my yarn. I've got my hook. I've got my coffee. I've got you guys. Kathy, I never have enough scrap yarn to make any scrap, anything. Well, Kathy, that's easy then. All you have to do is hold 2 strands together. Or sometimes it's fun, you know, if you just want to use a variegated yarn and a plain color yarn, to do it that way. Like, it doesn't have to be scraps. It just has to be two yarns. Oh, sorry. This is my, like, I can go anywhere with this ponytail. Helicopter hair. Yeah, that's it. I meant to do that. It's helicopter. This will be like from the top of your head down to here. So, or you know, the crown of your head down to here, and then a little bit longer because you'll have a little brim that folds up. And this is going to be the kind of hat where you crochet one long piece and then sew it together and pull it tight at the top. So here we go. I'm going to crochet or chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, it looked very cool. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I'm going to make it a little bit longer. I'm going to make it 30 long. If it's a little too long, that's okay. That's a good thing about having a brim you can flip up. Top of the head down to here. I'm just going to go with 28. How many inches would you say that is? That's about a foot, 10 inches to a foot. So then here's the secret. Now you're going to skip that first, skip the first chain into the second chain. You're going to slip stitch 1, next chain, slip stitch 1, next chain, slip stitch 1. So you'll slip stitch into the first 3 chains. You know what? I'm going to do it 4. Instead of 3, I'm going to slip stitch 4. So I slip stitched 4 and then I half double crocheted 4 on the chains. I'm not going to change it again. So we've got 4 slip stitches, 4 half double crochets, and then the rest of the way down, you're going to double crochet. If you're crocheting yours with the 2 strands of 4 weight, so I'm using a 7 millimeter, you might need to do more chains if you're crocheting with a smaller thread and the smaller hooks. Sometimes do you just love crocheting so much you just got to be still for a minute and feel the yarn and the crochet. Remember I was telling you guys about the egg thing on TikTok where the guy was doing the weird whispery creepy egg video? Apparently my daughter says it's ASMR and that people really like that kind of stuff. When you get to the bottom of your end of your watchmajigger, your piece of crochet, chain 1, and in the first, I would say first 4 or 5 stitches, you're going to double crochet in both loops. I would say the first 5. The first 5 stitches, you're going to double crochet into both loops. So when you get finished crocheting 5 into both loops, crochet 14 double crochets into the 14 double crochets that are left into the back loop only. We are making a Scraptastic beanie, and really what you need, we're making it with 2 strands of yarn. You can use 3 weight or 4 weight yarn. You can use 2 3 weights together, 2 4 weights together, or you can mix the 3 and the 4 weight. The 2 3 weights, you'll use a 6 millimeter hook. If you're using a 3 and a 4 weight, you'll use 6.5 millimeter hook. And if you're using 2 4 weights, you'll use a 7 millimeter hook. And I am using the 2 4 weights with a 7 millimeter hook, and I chained 28. And then skipping the first chain, and going down the chain, I slip stitched 4, half double crocheted 4, and then double crocheted in the remaining 19 chains. When I got to the end of that, chained up 1, turned, 5 double crochets into both loops of the first 5 double crochets. And then for the remaining 14 double crochets, crochet in the back loop only. Double crochet into the back loop only. Now the yarns that we're using, it's meant to be kind of like a scrap busting project hat. And with my Scraptastic projects, no matter how many strands of yarn I use, because I'll use anywhere from 2 to 6 strands, I always make sure at least one of them is the same all the way through. And this is the same all the way through that I'm using. And I'm using scraps, but they're not actually scraps, but they're like these little bonbon balls that I don't know what else I'm going to do with. So, you know, it doesn't matter, like if it just makes a half a row or 3/4 of a row or a row and a half, that's fine. It doesn't have to make exactly 2 rows. But when I have scraps that are longer than 2 rows, I will end it at the end of the second row so that I can put a different color of scrap in. That makes it like blend evenly, if that makes sense. Okay, so you remember those 4 half double crochets? Half double crochet in the back loop only of each of the next half double crochets. And we're almost to the end of the second row. When you get to the 4 slip stitches, you're going to be putting 4 slip stitches into, I just put it, and this is how it looks, you know, from the side you'll be crocheting with. I just put it into the chain, the loop that's sticking up the highest. Whether it's back or front, I don't know. I just stick it into the one that's sticking up the highest. So I have slip stitched into the last one, and this is what it should look like. This is what your hat should be looking like so far. And you notice it's getting smaller down at this end. This is going to be where the crown of the hat is. And basically every single row is going to be the same as these 2 rows. Super easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip the scrap yarn. I'm going to cut this. And, you know, like with these scrap ones, it doesn't have to be like exactly perfect. You know, when you do the changes, I think I'm going to do, let's see, I'll do this color next. But I am going to do a magic knot. Now, does anybody not know how to make a magic knot? Okay, so for a magic knot, this is how you do it. I'm gonna undo this just a few. And it doesn't have to be right exactly at the second row. Like, you don't have to make sure it's perfect. That's the great thing about Scraptastic blankets and hats and projects. They don't have to be perfect, but somewhere close to the end or the beginning of the second row area. You get your two scrap pieces of yarn. You take one and you tie a knot. And then you take the other one and you tie a knot on it, on the other one. So see what I've done there? I've tied the lighter green a knot around the darker green, and the darker green a knot around the lighter green. And then you pull those together, closer, 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 until they kiss. Then you just pull it tight right there, and you pull it tight right there, and these knots will not come apart. Watch this. You can snip it right there. See, I snipped it right close to the knot. See, it doesn't pull apart. It's like magic. That's why it's a magic knot. Will that work with velvet? I've done it with velvet before. I don't know. It's kind of I've never done it on a big thick velvet before. I undid a few of those, so I'm going to have to crochet back into there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Velvet just never holds a knot for me. So see, I've come to the end of that row and I have my knot right there. So that's how it's going to change colors. So I get to the end of the 4 slip stitches, chain 1, and then do the whole thing all over again. Slip stitch into the top of each of the slip stitches. So there's 4, and then half double crochet into the back loop only of the 4 half double crochets. Okay, you guys, the next 14 stitches are all half double crochet. I'm sorry, double crochet in the back loop only. We double crochet into both loops of each of the double crochets. I got to the end of this row, and really it's just the same thing over and over and over again. It's a 2-row repeat. You just chain 1 at the end of each row, whether it's whether it's a slip stitch or whether it's a double crochet. I'm just going to keep crocheting right now because I think everybody, this is such an easy hat that I mean, I don't need to explain anymore. What you got to do now is just keep crocheting your rows, switching your scrap yarns, or if you're just using 2 yarns, if you don't have to switch them for scraps. See, that's what it's looking like. And I like to crochet it. The reason I do the 2 down here is for the brim that you fold up. But anyway, does anybody have any questions about any of the stitches or the rows or anything? I am here for you. I am here for you. But I'll keep showing you when I change colors. How many rows total do you think for a 21-inch head? That's so subjective, Tracy, because it all depends on which 2 yarns you're using, which size hook you're using, and also what size yarns you're using. So once I get a little further into this, I'll be able to tell. And also how big your, oh, well, yeah, 21-inch head. I'll do a loose gauge here. Okay, so mine is 1, 2, 3, 4 rows equals 3 inches. So that'd be 7 times 4, 28 rows. Okay, so I'm thinking if I did it right, 28. And the way I did that was I have 4 rows that I've already crocheted, and this is 3 inches. This is 3 inches. So I just took 21 divided by the 3 inches is 7. So 7 or 3 goes into 7, or 3 goes into 21 7 times. So then I multiplied the 7 times the 4 rows, and that's how I got that. Got to change my yarn here because I hit the end of the second 2 rows. So here we go. This is the next color. Just tied the magic knot. If anybody else needs to see the magic knot again, let me know and I will show you, because the magic knot, I believe, is something that every single person who crochets or knits should know. or at least crochets. I don't know about knitting, but definitely crochet. Yeah, this, you know, this really should be the easiest pattern ever in the world to write up. Isn't this looking cool? I'm pretty happy with it. This will be a super easy hat to finish up, because basically all you've got to do is when the hat gets big enough that it will close around your head, you know, without having to stretch it, then you just seam up the side and you'll weave, you know, through here and pull this up tight, which shouldn't be, you won't have as much to do. That's why I was saying it won't be, you know, real baggy up on top. What I'm going to do is I'll get the pattern written up for this and I'll put it on my blog. You know, it's so weird because when I'm talking, I feel like I'm in a room talking with people. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm actually sitting here talking to myself. So how's everybody's hats looking so far? And it is, you know, it is, if anybody wants to check, the yarngeeks.com, the yarngeeks.com, www.theyarngeeks.com. The reason I thought of this idea for a hat is because when I make in the round, like sometimes I just make them way too big and it ends up being like a bucket on my head. So this was even before, she told me about the Hinton beanie. Was that Lacey? Lacey told us about the Hinton beanie, but I had done this before where it just, you know, decreases as you get closer to the crown of the head, you know, so it makes it smaller so there's less to bunch up. But then when Lacey told us about the Hinton beanie, I was like, what? I love this. And I'm going to switch colors again. I'm going to switch to the kind of brown color. And I'm going to tie the magic knot, clip the magic knot. I'm going into my 7th row, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Scraptastic's beanie. It's a really fast make. Like, this should only take, I don't know. It depends on how fast of a crocheter you are, but this is like a one couple of hours type project. I think I'm really loving the colors of this hat. You know, also, if you guys have any question about how to make this hat or whatever, you know how to get a hold of me. You can either message me in the Facebook group, you can DM me on Instagram. If you guys are getting some value or at least some entertainment out of this whole thing, please give the like button a big squishy hug. And if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so, because we got a lot of stuff going on here that is all about yarny fun and sanity. And click the notification bell so you won't miss a thing. The Hinton beanie. It's kind of the same principle as this, not as far as the Scraptastics go, but as far as how it, you make it smaller towards the crown as you're crocheting it. It's got the same kind of structure to it, and then you sew it together and then pull this up, but it's less, it's not like a big bunch of crochet up there because it does get smaller towards the top. I think it's about that time. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. And this is what your beanie should be looking like. You know, something like this, just depending on the color, whatnot. And then you just make it big enough to where it fits around your head, and then you sew it together. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I want to see everybody's hats in the socials. If you post them on Instagram or if you post them in the community tab. I know a lot of you guys have community tabs. If you post them in the Facebook group, I have a link to my Facebook group if you guys aren't already in. I'll show mine when I'm done. You show me yours and I'll show you mine. Okay, you guys, have a wonderful night. Love you. Bye-bye.